Yeah, how should we begin this lovely talk?
It's always a bit difficult to start off with.
But it's okay.
I had the same problem. I have a Telegram channel called Bock, the history of mankind, and I was thinking for days and days how to get into the story, because you can enter from any side, but it takes a while to get
we should
get the understanding of what it's actually all about. So I just started with my own involvement into the thing and started to tell it from the how I heard about it.
There you go.
And it's maybe a good start. I mean, for me, it's a magic thing.
Yeah. I agree. I think we all agree.
Yeah, for me, this is a truly magical story. Yeah. And it's like, we have a book in Germany, maybe it's a well-known book, it's The Infinite Story by Michael Ende. I don't know if you know this story.
The Never-Ending Story? Is it the same as that?
Story.
Yeah.
It's the Infinite Story, and it's about a little boy who reads a book. It's called The Infinite Story, and then at a certain point he jumps in, and suddenly he's in. And the same happened to me with the saga. I was sitting in my. It was in August 1989. I was introduced to Jim Chesner. He happened to be in Berlin, and he immediately started to tell me some weird things that stop. Let's meet. I saw his glow in his eyes, and he wanted to get something over. So we sat together with about 8 people in my house, and he started to tell the saga, and he had a very heavy English slang, American Texas slang accent. Nobody understood anything from what he said. After 2 hours, we looked at each other and said, what this guy fucking wants? It was like nobody could get the point. And Jimmy was quite frustrated because he obviously tried to get something over, but we didn't understand it. So in the end, we said, okay, Jimmy, let's give him a second chance. And we met 2 days later, and we were only 2 or 3 people, a little bit closer. So he started all off again. And after about 1 hour, I looked at him and I said, Jimmy, what did you just say? Please repeat this. And he repeated this piece again. And then it hit me. It was like I was like thunder and lightning coming down, bang, on me. And I was totally on. And in that moment, he had my attention. He said, keep on telling. And we were sitting for 13 hours together, non-stop.
Wow.
So, and I was hit by it like lightning, bang.
Yeah,
and I had immediately the wish to say, look, Jim, I have to meet Igor. Can you bring me to Finland? I said, of course. So I think 2 weeks later, we jumped on the train to Helsinki, and he introduced me to the gang. They were in his town apartment. There was Igor sitting together with about 15 other people. There was people from Japan, America, Germany, England, Ireland, France, Italy, Norway, Finland, Sweden, a whole bunch of people. And what actually hit me when Jimmy was telling me this whole thing, he said, okay, it's just drink your own sperm. I said, actually, yeah, I never thought about it, but why not? It made sense for me in the very beginning. So I started doing that, and I felt a good effect from it. And Jimmy introduced me to Eeyore with the words, this is Ananto from Germany. And he said, he's making his ring since 4 weeks. And Eeyore looked at me and said, oh, you're Ananto from Germany, and you make your ring since 4 weeks. And how does your sperm taste, salty or sweet? I couldn't believe it. I cracked up laughing. And I said, I think it's sweet. Oh, you must be one sweet, E. That's how I met Eo first time. And I liked the guy from the very moment, you know. I mean, such a thing. So I was there. We got friends. I really liked the guy from the very beginning. And that went on and on and on. And I was meeting him in Finland. I was about 20 times in Finland by now. I met him in Goa, India. We also invited him to Berlin 1 or 2 times. We made a session here. We had a seminar here at the UFA. Yeah.
Yeah, for me, that's quite one story, man.
Yeah, for me, this is he was maybe the most remarkable man I ever met, really. And I met quite some interesting people in my life.
Yeah, you're like in the party scene there in Germany,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I can imagine you meet a lot of weird people.
I mean, in a way, yes. I mean, Eo was part of the party scene in Goa, and he was the first actually who introduced Goa parties in Europe back in 1987 in his in Akampesa. That was the first so-called Goa party in Europe. We tried to figure out where was the first one. It's Finland, Akampesa, Gumbustrand at Eo's place. And then the whole thing started to spread all over the world. Yeah.
So when you say the thunder and lightning came down, what part of the saga do you think was like the most stunning to you at the time?
Jimmy told me there was one monkey fucking one goat. And out of it came Frey and Freya. And I thought, that is the best answer I ever heard so far. I mean, they were all looking for the missing link, you know? What's the missing link? What? Monkey fucking one goat, and then out comes Frey and Freya. And it made sense for me at the very first moment. And I said, I mean, just look around. Just look around. The guys always make the monkey. And the girls, in Germany, we say zickig. It means they are goatee. They meh. Say, you know. I hope nobody will be offended now. In the German language, it's very, very present. The Bock and the goat, yeah, and
okay.
And the girls, we say, "Du dumme Ziege," it means you stupid goat, and the girls say to the boy, "You stupid monkey."
Really? Wow.
I don't know how it is in America or in the English context, but we
many differences.
We call our children
girls with goats.
We call our children kids.
Boys with monkeys.
Yeah, we call our kids. Yeah, our kids.
Our kids.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Our children are kids.
And actually, I'm only in German and English. In the German language, the association of the Bock is really everywhere. It's it's mind blowing. The Germans love to drink Bock beer.
Mm.
Yeah,
and they love to eat Bock sausage. So it's in everybody's mouth in a way.
Yeah,
association from Bock is everywhere. Okay,
but is that what you're doing, like on your Telegram channel there, Ananto? You have
what?
You're doing like everything there on German, right?
I'm doing it on German. Yeah.
Yeah. So it must be mostly like German people that you're trying to reach out to.
Yeah, actually, I think this channel should be also made in English. It's like a listening book, you know. I've recorded like 23 hours now, just on the saga, plus another 20 hours on subjects that are surround the saga.
The outer rings.
Yeah.
And maybe we'll
somebody
have to...
should do it in English, and it can't be me. It must be somebody whose mother tongue is English.
That's the issue.
Very important.
Well, I mean, it would make sense for us to just open our Telegram up or create a separate one for a group, perhaps, you know, and maybe connect the two in that way.
Yeah.
That might be an idea. We have a Telegram, or, you know, we could do that. It's an idea we could talk about.
Ananto seems to be doing a lot there, or at least he has some substantial with information there and links, videos and all this, but I can't understand too much because I don't understand the German, of course. But
well, I tell you why I started this, because it was never in my intention to do that. I was thinking for years how to preserve the story, you know, because I'm not a person who's easy with writing, for example. I'm not but I can talk. So, and I was sitting in Thailand in the lockdown in Thailand in, I think, April 2020. I just lost my job. I'm a party promoter, so no more parties. And suddenly lockdown in Thailand. And then I was studying every day for 10, 15 hours, all kinds of weird shit, documentaries. And then all of a sudden I realized that there are other people, which I don't know, are using the saga to support their own ideas. And I was shocked because they were spreading such a fucking nonsense about this thing. And it was mostly also out of let's say, a right-wing spectrum, you know? And they were trying to use the information from the saga to support their own theory. Let's put it like that. And I got so angry, I tried to communicate to them. I said, look, nice that you want to talk about the saga, but please do it the right way. Do it, you're just telling people nonsense. And they didn't answer me. I tried in every possible way to get in contact with these people, but they did not answer. So I was pretty frustrated. And all of a sudden I was sitting there and I said, okay, now I make my own channel. I just put the record button and started to talk. And it went on and on.
Yeah, but you reach a lot of people, I can see.
Well, there are 1,350 people, I think, in my channel at the moment.
And that's great for a thing like the saga, because, you know, like we've all embraced it as like a key of some kind, you know, so a way to connect it to other parts of history. And it feels very personal. We say that a lot. So, I mean, with that many people's minds focused on it, that's got to, you know, bring some great results to the table or curiosities.
Yeah. The thing is, people really have to study this thing. It's not just, I mean, either you pick it up immediately or you need to really look in for a while until it clicks. And I always say to people, you have to start with the sound system. And when you get it in immediately, usually people just learn it by repeating it for themselves. And then when you have it in your head, then the sound start to roll in a way. But they have to learn this alphabet first. If they don't have the alphabet in their head, it's not going to happen, right?
Yeah, because we can all make word associations that don't lead to meaningful places. Yeah. And we can think that they sound suspicious or coincidental, but we may be just chasing our tails in some certain, if we don't have the right information, you know what I mean? word magic, puns and all that.
After a while, you start to realize that it's not coincidence.
Right.
But we can now see how they are coming from this more materialistic side, with all the focus on like the temple and all the surroundings around that, And I mean, I think that kind of attention will always go with this kind of community. I think when there's some kind of temple, there's treasures and stuff. I mean, that's very interesting for anyone. I mean, so.
Yeah, it would be a Nicolas Cage movie.
Yeah, it's some kind of Indiana Jones.
Indiana Jones,
yeah.
The Lemminkainen Temple. We've got to get under there, man.
Yeah, but Ananto, haven't you been? As I understand it, you have been quite active also there in the trying to do things on the ground. Also, I mean, in Finland.
Yeah, I was there first time, as I said, I think in August 1989. And I've been twice in Finland. And from the very moment I had the feeling this story has to be spread. So I got from Stuart an American video cassette where Michel has been talking. So I recorded that on European system in Berlin and started to spread it like wild. But I must say, in the first year, I was not. My understanding of the saga was still very, very little. And Io has been not telling the whole thing in 1991. It was just up to a certain point, and the way we've been putting it out also made people run away. It was too much for them, and for me, I was a couple of times in Finland, and the excavation was going on, but no result. And in the end, police came in and put us all in jail because of Bumshanga, So I was there in jail only 3 days. Some people had to stay a little longer. And I came out of jail and I got so angry. I said, okay, now this is it. Either I find something which is solid proof in the story, or I'm out. And I thought all about it. I was sitting there with Wolfram and Michel, and we were thinking, the only place where we haven't looked yet is in Kajaani. There is the story about this castle in Kajaani, close to the polar circle. And according to the saga, there is one lead box, and inside this lead box is one golden box, and the regalia from the last king and queen of Finland. It is buried in the middle or somewhere in this castle. This castle is standing on one island, and the island is in a river, and that's in the middle of the town of Kajaani. Beautiful place. So I tried to find somebody who had a georadar measuring system, and I found one guy from the University of Oulu, Mika Risto Polari, I think was the name. Anyway, and I ordered him, please come. I told him what we wanted to do to make measurements on the whole ground of Kajaani. And I personally was sure we find nothing. I was sure. I said to myself, I'm going to prove you that there is nothing. That's where I spent my money. So, and then we are searching the whole ground, and at a certain point, this machine went, woo, 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 back. So we found the place. This machine took us here, underneath here, 6 meters down. There is a big piece of metal lying in the ground. I just couldn't believe it. I said, fuck, it's really there. You know, I was trying to disprove the story, and I found the proof. So, of course, we went to the Museum Virasto in Helsinki, And we presented the data to it was not the director, I think it was the director of the NBA, the National Board of Antiquity, Pekka Kärki was his name. And he listened to us for half an hour, and we told him what we had done, blah, 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 blah. And then he looked at us, and he only said, listen, guys, you must have seen too much Indiana Jones movies. And he laughed about us. And I couldn't believe it. I'm coming from Germany, spending 10,000 marks on proving to the Finnish bureaucracy that there's really something in the ground of this castle of Kajaani. And they tell me, I have watched too much Indiana Jones movie. Fuck them. I couldn't believe it.
But isn't this like the usual reply or the usual, like, what do you say?
We wouldn't expect them to go, oh, hey, you found the secrets.
Did he know that this was connected to the Bock saga in any way? This guy, do you think? Because that seems to be only if they already know that, they are going to be like tossing you out with the bathwater, so to speak.
No, they are aware. They are aware of the saga, of course, but they just think we are full of shit, you know. And or maybe they're afraid of the information. Or I don't know. I can't really say while they are blocking this thing so heavily. On this meeting with Pekka Kärki, and then after he was saying with the Indiana Jones movie, he really screamed at us more or less. He said, and I warn you, you don't go there on yourself and start to dig. No, I said, no, don't worry. We have no intention to do that. We want you to go there.
Yeah.
And do it with your own experts. You're the expert. But we don't have money for that. I said, come on, how much can it cost to dig one hole, maybe 6 or 7 meters into the ground, maybe 2 times 2 meters and 6 meter deep? Can't be so much. And he said, well, maybe 50,000 Finnmark. He said, 50,000 Finnmark. And he said, okay, we're going to get you that. So we went back to the apartment where Io was sitting and told Io the story. And then he said, what? He said, 50,000. So he opened one cupboard, took a bag out with 50,000 Finnmark in this bag, said, give it to them. Yeah, it's still from when his sister died 10 years before. It was the money from his sister. So it was his the last little thing he had somewhere. But so we took the money, we went to the museum, we put the money on the table and said, here, 50,000 marks. And believe me, their eyes were in shock.
I can understand. And in cash
and
also.
They took the money and they said, okay, you hear from us. A couple of days later, we got a letter where they said, no, we don't accept your offer because what we found could very easily be just a pen, which is usually to find in old castles, for example. You know? And they also said during the renovation, or how do you say it in English?
Yeah, restoration
of Finnish castles and slots. We take care about it when it's the right time. What they didn't up to now. They restored all the castles in Finland with Europe money. They put millions there, but they didn't look at one place. That one, you know. Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds a lot like...
It's interesting to see the opposition. There's not much said about this kind of things. I really love to hear stories like this, like on the ground.
We don't have a lot of opposition stories about the Bock saga over here.
Yeah, this is fucking awesome, Ananto. I want to hear stuff like this all day.
And after my meeting, after my my trip to Kajaani, in the next years, there were 3 other teams who went to Kajaani with better and better and better machines. They looked and they found always the same with better pictures. And I think the last time somebody was there, it was 1997 or 98. And from that screening on, you could see actually how big this box is. It's 1.60 meters long. It's 70 centimeters large in the width, wide, and about 1.50 meters high. You could see it on the fucking screen.
Wow. But who did those scans? Who did this? Yeah. Is it also some just some freelance people or what?
I don't know who these scans, who made them. I don't know.
But they have published images.
Bo Olsen, he knows more about this. Maybe you get Bo Olsen one day for a talk, and he knows a little bit more about that. You know.
Yeah, we then to get those scans. Go ahead, Dan.
Did they give you the money back?
No.
What?
Wow. Not surprising, but still evil.
Yeah, not surprising at all. That's why I wanted to ask, because it sounds like something that would happen.
Out of it for me is much more than the fucking money. It's more.
Yeah, but it's just rude.
It's just rude.
For me,
they say something like a price, and then they just take it away and run with it. It's fucking weird.
We're gonna.
What are you gonna say?
For me, I was sure in that moment. This story is real. It's for me. It was my assurance. Because I was, in that time, very much doubting. I was doubting. And when you doubt, you doubt as long as you come to something which you cannot doubt anymore. Because it's obvious. It's real. And this I found with it. And that's where it hits me. In that moment, the story was just not anymore a story, but something substantial.
But I can just talk for myself personally. When you start to investigate it, either if it's like you did, or start to research or go back in history, or just put some time in your own head, you know, then I think it's necessary almost if you want to pursue, or I mean, want to is not what I have been trying to do with the saga, you know, because it just struck me like 2 minutes in when I heard the first video, you know. So I had that kind of moment that Ananto was talking about also, but it was like Jim didn't even need to finish the first sentence, you know, almost. It was just too much. But then I also have the root there, but it's
Yeah, Yaka, you have a lot of you were probably hearing a lot of it in your own language and going, oh my God, and making connections that you've had your whole life. For me, it was Altlantes. That's what got me. That was the one big thing that got me. Have you done a lot of research into like the connections outside of the Bock saga and how the the history that you see around the world is actually directly kind of leads back to the Bock saga? Because that's the most fascinating stuff for me, is how you can hit people with, oh yeah, you're familiar with this part of history, well, let me tell you where it comes from. And it's just mind-boggling how undeniable it can be sometimes. That's, I guess, how it hits you.
What it comes down, I mean, I'm not a historian. Unfortunately, I don't have too much knowledge about history. I'm getting it a little bit more since I hear the saga. What struck me was the saga tells it starts from the very beginning with Frey and Freya, and it paints a huge picture on that what we call paradise, you know. Everybody talking about paradise, but what actually was it? and according to the saga, it was this whole breeding system and the offering system, and it was a lot of sexuality, and people were naked in front of each other, and they were obviously having a lot of fun. And I mean, when it must have been a very erotic state of life in that time. Everybody naked, wanking from morning to evening, drinking from each other, but in a different way, with a system behind, you know. And from that perspective, then he starts, he says, now something happened, the Earth's axis shifted, and then Ice Age came on the planet, and 11 races were created because they were separated from each other. And then the second Ragnarok came 10,000 years ago about, and they went to Gotland, and from there they started to populate Europe again and connected to the other kingdoms in India and China and the other side of the ocean, in Maya, and so on. And then the system started to break apart. It started already to break apart in the moment when Bock families decided to go back to Finland to build up hell again. There were two of these, it's said in the saga, two of the more than 12 sons from Lemminkainen. They jumped out of the system and they started, it was Sven and Dan, and they went to Sweden and Denmark and started to populate this area. That was a break. It was definitely a break with the origin. We don't know why they did it, but they did it. And this was the first break point. And in the next few thousand years, other kingdoms also broke away. They also separated from the source out of reasons we don't know. And but the saga tells, and then you come to the time of history, what we consider as history. And when you look at it from the perspective of the saga, then that's for me, at least for me, I understand what these religions are. The religions are the breaking points in with the old system, with the old heathen system. You know, it's this Krishna story, the Moses story, the Jesus story.
It's the religion in one way.
And now I have to be careful what I say. I see the religions as they are basically in one thing. They seem to do the same thing. They destroy human sexuality in some way or another. Especially the sexuality of women has been totally destroyed in many religions. The patriarchate came up, so it was a suppression of female energy. And that's what we are stuck with until today. Total, for me, in the last few thousand years, it seems to be that the religion have done everything to destroy the human sexuality in some way or other. You know,
divine feminine, the destruction of the divine feminine, also because they believe that worshiping a female deity was some type of sacrilegious thing, and you shouldn't worship women and all this other stuff, and so they demonized that whole worship of women by killing the Templar. Right, they killed them purposely on Friday, on the 13th, which was both Friday with Freya Day, and 13 being the letter M in the English alphabet, which mother starts with M in every language. So by killing that off, demonizing it, making it a bad day, Friday the 13th, ooh, be afraid, it also made people stop worshiping women. And then they went and burned all the pagan women, right? Because they deemed them as witches. So they got rid of them that way, and it became a patriarchy instead of both men and women being equal, like it had been throughout history. Like even you can see in Egypt that their queens ruled, and Yeah, and men were ruled together. They didn't necessarily rule apart or anything like that, but it started to disintegrate as time went on. And you can definitely see that with religion and sexuality. It seems like they demonized everything that was pagan in a way. Alchemy, magic, women, sexuality. There's multiple things that they started to demonize and just say, nope, that's evil. This is the way that we're going to do it now.
Do you think this was out of ignorance, or do you think there was a motive behind it? Because, I mean, I hate to bring up some darker themes, but just, the idea of depopulation and the false claim that the earth is overpopulated right now and all those things. It's kind of where the big, powerful heads are trying to take this place. So that kind of reminds me of this original situation here where they're like immediately limiting sexuality, which is be fruitful and multiply. So they're kind of trying to take that away with these religions.
Religion.
No, they had, I think, when I understand the saga right, before they had this breeding system, which made that not every man and not every woman was meant to become father or mother. So it was basically.
We can see that in today's society that not everybody is fit to be a fucking parent.
Yes.
I didn't want to say that. I'm very careful with that.
You're so polite.
So it was the woman who was choosing. She had the right to choose the man she wanted to become pregnant from, right? And when a woman had, let's say, 5 children, you could say for sure these have been from 5 different men. It was not marriage, and this kind of relationship what we have today was not in the time the system. They were living another thing. There was a sexuality between man and woman. They were tour friends. So they got together for a while and exchanged their fluids, and then they took an ex-partner. But to come together to make a child, it's a long story in the saga. It was a very ritualistic, but it made that not every woman was mother and not every man was father. There was a selection system for that. It sounds strange for us when we do it, because today you know how it works.
Yeah, it's not the normal.
Maybe we should think about at least doing children in another way, in a nice way. But
it's so touchy subject also to even discuss. I mean, it's that's the biggest issue, I think, with the think about another kind of way. It's very taboo for oneself.
What the religions did, they forced people into marriage. So the marriage is actually, and then they said, okay, from now on, every man has a woman, and then every woman has a man, and you stay together until you die. So, and in the old times, not even the woman could choose the man. It was more the parents or the grandparents who were choosing the woman and the man, like it is still today in India, very much.
To combine.
We had it like here. We had it here also.
In Europe also. This was in Europe also. The love marriage was not the thing that people did.
It's a new grade. I think it came with America, right? It's more love marriage, right?
Well, it's not only America, I think.
But in a more broader sense, I'm saying, like the
Western world.
Way. Yeah.
It was organized from the parents or from the grandparents.
Arranged.
And then the women didn't have the tour friends anymore. The men didn't have the tour friends anymore. So one man and one woman in one little box, and you should make children as much as you can, according to the Bible, and go over and procreate and fill the planet. And
Mm.
And what we have now today, what we see now today is the consequence of what has been decided already hundreds and thousands of years before. Now we are sitting in this shit called civilization. The way I see it, it's a disaster for the planet.
Mm.
It really, we destroy everything here because we have no respect for nature anymore. We have no understanding for nature anymore. We have no feeling for the nature anymore. We lost that feeling. And for me, the religions did everything to the people to lose this feeling. Yeah.
Yeah, it's become this supernatural thing also a lot in the religions also.
To me, the heart chakra is the green chakra, and to me that represents the land of earth, the green land, the green trees in the land, and that's your love. So we lost that love for nature and replaced it with love for, I guess, people.
Well, see, that's the hard part, because it's not a bad thing. It's not like the typical inversion that we see. I think there must be some hidden layer there, because it almost seems like this was the birth of getting consumers for the wealthy. So like this was an easier way to. I still don't believe the earth is overpopulated. I think we're herded, but I still think there's a lot more consumers in this system than there would be in the old setup, you know, where it was all organized and arranged and carefully done. You know, is how many people does it take to make one child in the Bock saga?
Yeah, I was gonna say it. It's like that. You speed up the production of people also with the religion,
right.
But you also get this stress factor, I think, with the when you start to have this kind of taxation system and all the other things that comes also with religion. It's I can't imagine that there is a lot of stress during the more heathen system also, because the stress tends to override morality also over money and all of this.
That's a good point.
I think it must have been, in my understanding, it must have been the greed for power. Somebody started to said, okay, I want to get control. I want to get into power. And then that was the split.
From the top, a lot I see with like the jarls are starting to fight each other within for territory and all of this. It's like a theme throughout medieval history, at least, this kind of rivalry between the landowners and all of this. I mean, because I might be, the church must have been, they are smart people perhaps also within the church, at least within the tactics of destruction and all of this divide and conquer, blah, 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 blah,
As I understand it, before people were living in their territory and they produced only as much children as people were dying off. It was a kind of system of birth control also. So you don't overpopulate your country. You know how many people your country is can live there and can live from what is being growing there on the ground. But when the system broke apart, each tribe started to overpopulate. And then, of course, you need more territory. And the other one is doing the same. Yeah. And then you go into war. Then you go to the neighbor and try to get territory, but they're doing the same to you. And then you come into war. You
arrange a marriage between the two families, and then
maybe war is a thing that came pretty late on the planet. Maybe in the last 10,000 years, people went into war. Before there was no need for that. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't know. That's my understanding of the saga.
Well, especially when you think of when ice time hit, you can imagine that people in the northern hemisphere were probably, heading south and overpopulating the southern hemisphere if they could, possibly. These problems probably started arising during that time period, maybe after the first Ragnarok.
Well, I can tell you a little bit of a short story from Sweden, because we converted so late. There's actually like on paper what happened and how they took over and what stages. But the first stage is taking over the information system before the tax system and all of this. So I think that information, that's like the key power or the thing to unify, of course. And then come all the other effects. But it's so funny, people were forced to go to church on Sundays, but at the same time, they were also the people running the tavern or where the drinking places of the alcohol also. Because I don't think it was some kind of alcohol culture very much in the heathendom, right? I don't know about that too much, but it's just interesting that the priests are also the ones that are selling alcohol, so everyone comes to church real hangover on Sunday. I mean, it's
beg for forgiveness.
I don't know, but it's just interesting.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that. Is there any drug use in the saga? Is there any hallucinogenics or anything? Because it seemed like later on when the religion started forming, they were using drugs and stuff for different religious aspects. Yeah, and I was wondering if that was kind of like a carryover from pagan times, or if that was like a branching off from it to connect to nature again without connecting to nature. You know what I mean?
Using a third party rather than just yourself meditatively.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
As I understand it, they knew from the very beginning, they knew everything about the plants. It must have been like that. And this knowledge was with the woman. The woman knew how to use the plants, how to make the tea, how to make the herbs, what is the effect of them. That was that I think shamanism was a female story in the beginning. And so they were taking care about this knowledge of the plants and what is in the plants. There is mahla. They call it in Finnish language mahla, in Swedish zav, in English sap. That's all the same. Or in Hindi, I think it's amrita, nectar. To use this energy, it's actually sun power. Mm-hmm. A plant is concentrated sun power. So you take the leaf from the plant and you make tea. So you drink the sunlight actually. Yeah. And for the women, when they were, the Mahala story was with the women, the sperm story was for the man. And the Mahala you also get out when you masturbate. And this juice that comes out of the pussy then is also concentrated Mahala, I call it. And they were drinking that. But that has much to do with this whole Mahala system with the plants and the knowledge of it. I think they must have been some ceremonies to use this. Of course, why not? You also used to say, many times used to say like cannabis, hemp. This is the oldest plant people were always into using cannabis as medicine, as joints, as smoke it, they make cookies from it or whatever, you know. You personally did not like anything artificial. No pills, no powder, no pills, no powder, and what you can stitch in your arm with
needles.
That he hated that. He didn't like it at all. And he only smoked by himself, as far as I know.
Ritualistic almost.
Yeah, that was his thing. He was
like a sacrament.
He just loved it. But all the other, no.
This is a weird off question, but do you think that they were mixing their semen into drinks to drink it that way? Is that where like we get the word cocktail from?
Well, there were all kinds of drinking ceremonies. First thing, you can drink from yourself, of course, and then you can share with your friend. And then you can also put it in a mixing bowl. There are maybe 10 guys who put it in one.
No.
They make the cocktail from it. And
they make a cocktail from it, yeah. So.
As I heard from one guy who is also connected with the saga, he researched that in India, amongst certain people, there is still the thing that they meet once in a while. There are 4 guys mixing the sperm in one bowl. They put a little bit herbs on top and whatever, make taste better. No, and they share it between each other. These kind of rituals are still there today, but they are very, very hidden. They don't talk
make sense.
It's hidden.
Yeah? They shut up about it. And I even have the suspicion that in the secret societies, Freemasons, whatever, are still these rituals known.
Yeah,
I think they're practicing it probably, but they don't talk about it. I know from some people. I studied Tantra in a certain way, and I know from tantric schools from India and China, this knowledge is still there, but they don't talk about it. When you get to learn these things, you get it maybe after 5 or 10 years. The master comes to you and says, but not officially.
Ain't the symbol of the helmet this kind of ritual? And also probably the shield or the buckler, to collect this kind of symbology with the archetypes, with the shield and lance and all of this kind of,
It's interesting to connect it to Tantra too, because that was the first connection I made when I heard about the offering system. While everybody else laughs at it and gets all uncomfortable, I was like, well, wait a minute. In the East, they teach you, at least on the surface, they don't teach you to drink from yourself, but they teach you that the seed is very sacred, and they teach you to be able to have orgasm without ejaculation. So to keep that, I guess maybe sun power. I'm not sure if they refer to it that way, but I bet we could probably find some symbolism that links it to sun power in the East. So they keep it inside themselves in a similar way. It's a different story, but it almost feels like maybe a philosophy that kind of got carried down the road a little bit.
When I was, I think, 14, I got this funny idea as a young boy, that I actually wanted to reach my dick and give myself a blowjob. It worked in that time. I was not aware that I was what I was doing, but it worked. So I had it twice or 2 times or 3 times. I drink for myself. Then I told that to my friends. And they thought, yeah, fuck, you're crazy, you're pervert, you're homosexual. We don't want to have anything to do with you. So I stopped this again. Huh? But I also remember that I had some kind of buzz after that. Something kicked me out of my body. I don't know. And then I saw this picture, a huge picture from a yogi, Indian yogi. He was showing his position, his asanas in 20 pictures. And I looked at the picture and I said, actually, this guy can suck his dick in standing, in lying, in sitting, whenever. He can always reach it. And then the next thing in my head was, no, these are holy men from India. They don't do such things. Right. That's maybe the purpose of yoga in the end. I don't know.
That's where I take it too. I mean, and people get uncomfortable with this stuff, but it's like you got to take it back to before there was any taboos or rules or cultural mores or anything like that. That's kind of that's the only way we're going to learn from this and not get freaked out by it on a cultural level.
Yeah.
Taken educationally.
It's what I found out in telling the story to friends and people in the last 30 years. For the man, when it comes down to drink your own sperm, they are disgusted about it. And I always said, why? And I said to the guy, but look, you like to have blowjob? Yeah, sure, of course. And you want to get your orgasm in the mouth of the woman? Yeah, sure. And you want the woman to drink it? Yeah, sure. Have you been drinking it for yourself? Disgusted. No, it's not it's for the women. And I say, fuck you. So you give your woman, your beloved, something. What you feel disgust for? Fuck you. What do you think? And I tell you, I found out that women understand this drinking story better than men.
Yeah.
And they like it.
They get turned on. So.
Yeah.
The men have some problem with it.
Another thought that I had was
the cultural thing.
Do you think maybe the alcohol was a replacement,
of course,
for this drinking? Because what you have in alcohol is the extraction of spirit from plants or from roots or whatever that is that they make the alcohol from, and then that is what is then drank, and then that's why it's called a cocktail.
Yeah. And they literally call them spirits. And even Terence McKenna, from a psychedelic perspective, talks about, like, on an anthropological level, how when they started to use honey as a way to preserve things, their sacred mushroom traditions eventually started to get mixed up with this alcohol that started to come from the honey. And that's the fall, right?
But I was just thinking about this vein, don't we have like vein and all of this, like the sperm thing is in the, what do you call it? In the pronunciation, or when you talk about like sperm, we can also refer it to as vein, right? As I understand it.
Wien has the association of wine and sperm. Vinland is Vinland was the land.
Vinland, Finland, or
Vinland, the land where the sperm came from.
Yeah, but now this church thing, you come there and drink the wine. I think they were really heavy drinkers back then, I really think so, with this wine, alcohol.
I think they've been using wine and beer already since thousands of years before. They were aware of when you have fruits, then alcohol starts to develop naturally by themselves. Even animals go for it. They eat fruits which are over the time to get drunk.
And psychedelics.
Monkeys.
Yeah, you can see the monkey stories there. It's the first on the agenda today to get the tourists grogs,
But what I think what they were using in these drinks in that time, in alcohol, in beer and wine, they were mixing some psychedelic stuff in, some other plants, herbs. I don't know the name in English for that, but this is the knowledge from the witches. From the witches.
I think about absinthe, for example. It has some kind of herb to it. Yeah.
It has wormwood.
It's some kind of weird...
Which is another biblical term that came down and it was a star, Interesting symbolism there.
The mushroom. Yeah, Terence McKenna.
How was the culture there in Finland when it comes to like mushrooms and this? This must go pretty well, right? With the small topisar and the hallucinatic, what do you call it? Hallucinate.
I'm 100% sure that they've been using these plants, the mushrooms, and whatever they had in their surrounding. I'm pretty sure about that. It must have been a ritualistic use of this stuff, absolutely. And this was already back to the early days of mankind. I'm from myself 100% sure that they were using these things.
Well, we know that they smoke cannabis because this well-preserved ship that there is in Norway, this most well-preserved Viking ship they found. It was a box full of hemp seed there, so they had been using it for something at least the ropes and sails for sure. But there's a lot of byproducts also.
Yeah, well, that's what, and with mushrooms, that's what the fairy rings were, right? Was they would sit in circles and eat the mushrooms.
The fairy rings.
Yeah.
Should be careful with the mushrooms, to be honest. I hear friends eat all kinds of mushrooms. Of course, they start to trip, even if it's bad for you.
Well, yeah, I've heard, especially in Scandinavia, they go for the Amanita muscaria, the fly agaric, the Alice in Wonderland mushroom. But
yeah,
that's a very
red and white
mushroom.
One?
Yeah, that's the one where shamans actually would
Flugsvamp.
Would eat. Someone would eat them, and then they would urinate into the shaman's mouth or something like that. To actually, it was on the second pass that it was hallucinogenic without being so, I guess it would cause spasms when eaten. And so it's a very dangerous psychedelic to consume. But I guess reindeer will drink people's piss.
I have friends who have took it. And it has become a thing here now in Sweden. Story. It has become very popular to consume this flugsvamp you're talking about. I have a lot of friends who actually I know they have been trying it. So.
We should get into this Christmas story because it is December when this comes out.
That's right.
Yeah, we're getting soon to see.
We would love to get into some Bock saga interpretation of Christmas and the holiday, especially since in Scandinavia, we do have that psychedelic Christmas story that probably is nothing like what the Bock saga would say about Christmas, but they're so close in geography,
Yeah.
Yes, it is. We see the Yule Bock is starting to hang around, at least here now.
There is the Yule Bock in Finland or in Sweden. You said once to me there are only 3 Bocks left. It's the Yule Bock, it's the Thin Bock, and it's the Horbock.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Harbock?
Hor is a
Horbock.
Hornbock.
Hairbock.
Is a man who goes to prostitutes.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
And what's the other Bock?
The Sündenbock is it's a saying, the Sündenbock.
Syndabocken. It's like the guy who did it's the guy who did the bad deed, the Syndabocken, or takes the blame. Yeah. And we have the Yule Bock.
Yeah, scapegoat. Yeah.
Goat, you see. But we also have this. We still have it today. They build this huge goat structure from straw, like in astrology.
Like
it has those. Yeah, it's this huge. It's like 5 meters or something tall. Yeah. And it's made of this organic. Still today they do it. It's called Gävlebocken in Gävle. You can find it on YouTube. It's there now, and people has been burning it down every year. It's like a theme there. How long will it stand this year? It's like
destroying the saga every year without even knowing it.
Yeah, it's such a symbol for heathendom in one way. It's not so popular among certain groups of people, I think.
I think it was one of the symbols from the Bock family, the straw Bock.
Yeah, it is.
Straw Bock.
Oh,
straw Bock.
You take a like when you have
strålar,
or let's say rye. You take it with rye or wheat. Is that the other bird in
reed?
It's been growing through the sunlight. Then you take it, put together, and you make the straw bock out of it. It's an old tradition in Sweden, I think.
Yeah, but this straw, I think, it's the symbolical for the sun.
Yeah,
because the strålar is the word, or stråle is the word for a sunlight also.
Yeah,
it's so basic. It's like the straw is one piece of grass,
It comes from the sun.
Comes from the sunlight,
to the earth, and everything grows by what comes from the sun. And the energy comes from the sun, and the warmth, and the intelligence, and the spirit.
Astrology is also has to do with sunlight.
Astrology.
Yeah.
So it's a strålar thing. You say sun ray. You're taking away the associating so big with the English from this.
Solstice too.
So should we talk about? Sorry, go ahead, Dan.
What does the solstice mean in like Bock? Like, because the soul has to do with the sun. So what's the tis part? TICE. What were they doing on the solstice days?
Well, I'm thinking
in the saga, it is said it has to do with the children making system, with the breeding system.
Of course.
The day of Lucia. That's, I think, the 12th of December. Is that right?
Okay.
I'm not really sure. It's 13th, right? It's 12th or 13th or something like that. Yeah.
12th or 13th.
It must be 12th, right? Or it's a Sunday. Maybe it differs. I don't know.
So they would breed in a certain month?
Yeah, just I'm in the old time when in the Nordic lands. They had Lucia, that was the day when the woman would get a dream or a vision of a child or of something. And they were checked by the older people if they had this dream. The women came forward and they had, I think, 7 candles on their head.
Lucia has that 7 candles, yeah.
And they were showing, okay, they had the dream. Then the next day in the breeding system was the 24th of December, the Holy Night. This day was called Festival. One fest is one party, like in German. E means the brick in that context, and Wahl means you choose. So you choose one E on one party.
Festival.
Still do it today.
Yeah.
We have a lot of festivals.
You go to a party to meet men and women, and you choose the right E for your pleasure, right? And so the men were piling up in a row and showing their masculinity, and the women went look, and they chose this E. But then the child was made half year later.
In Easter.
No, it was.
It's summer solstice.
First,
August.
The Carnival. That was the drinking festivities in the offering system for the coming child. Then I think it was the 24th in May. They came together. Honeymoon.
Okay.
Yeah,
means she. E is the brick. Moon means the mouse. So she is drinking 30 days from the man. Right, and the last day they were made pregnant. That was the 24th in June. Johannes, I think, is the name.
Yeah.
That was summer solstice. So the children were made. It was in the summertime, in the 3 days after summer solstice is 21st of June, but they were somehow always choosing 3 days after.
Yeah, this is an example of
they are coming in areas.
Living
That's why we have
in nature.
And then most of the people have been born actually in the spring.
Because they've been born in the spring.
In the fire, the areas.
Yeah. It makes sense that you don't.
And in Aries too.
Right, yeah, the Aryans.
You don't get your child in the autumn, because then the winter comes. You get it better in the spring. Then you have the whole summer in front of you.
Yep.
That's up here. It's very natural to do so anyway. So it's just very good. That
fascinating.
Yeah, it's everything is like surrounding the nature in that way. They could have been doing it perhaps on other dates in paradise. I don't know, but I mean, this is perfect for the winter climate, at least, or the Atlantis period.
I mean, in the time when the Earth X was straight, there was no such thing like summer and winter,
we don't
spring and autumn. They had a different climate, and there was no ice on the planet, as you told us. So, and also there were much more space for people to live. Today,
it's shrunk down by the ice also.
Much deserts, and you have many places where it's just too cold to live, So actually, Ior mentioned once to me, he said, okay, we are now 6 million, I think, in that times. And he said there were, in that time, in paradise time, we were much more people on Earth. But not everybody wanted their own flat, their own house, their own TV, their own car. People were living in nature. And they didn't have this thing what we have today. Now everybody wants today one house, one TV, one fridge, one car. That's where the problem starts.
It's even worse today now when everyone is getting kicked out when they are like 15 years old also. I mean, before, like here in Sweden, people could almost live their entire life on one place, one dräng or whatever, you lived more up close because everyone was needed in the household.
Without, no cultural pressure to move out and become independent or leave your family behind to start your own. It's like our own little imperialism. Like instead of throwing out the king system, we just turned ourselves into kings, and now we want our own lands and our own peoples.
Yeah, right. That's what you said. Now, before you had the king. Okay, the king was the king, and he was treated also probably in a different way than most of the people because he had a certain function. Very important function in the offering system. So, and then he said, then everybody wanted to be the king. And he said, now, when you look around, now you see what it means that everybody wants to be the king. That's a disaster of civilization.
Yeah. Interesting parallel to Satan falling. He wanted to rule heaven, right? I mean, he's told his followers that we should all be as powerful as God. So therefore, it's a similar story. I wonder, it makes sense.
I've been trying to extract some of those types of things, and I don't know if I'm doing a correct job or not, but it seems like Ra seems to be that figure for me.
The king that represents the moon or the Bock.
But then becomes the sun,
the moon goat. I mean, he didn't have any children, so he wouldn't be greedy to pass along anything that, in our context, if you have children, I mean, maybe you work for your children to have it good. But he didn't have any children, the king.
No,
at least
until Egypt, until Ra was like a very different kind of king.
I know that Sven and Dawn, they also did this flip out story, with they became breeders and king.
And they weren't supposed to be.
Yeah, that was also the fall.
See.
So it's
for me,
but maybe that's what the fall is that they became the breeders when they were not supposed to be the breeders. They were the in-between children or the king children and not the Bock children.
I mean, it says a lot if such a hybrid, so to speak, didn't produce any children.
And then you have that story about them forming the Viking system, and it's all about this. It's what I'm finding from the root language, and the root language to me shows how much it's about, what you can do with your body, and the symbol of two people splitting. It almost symbolizes this fall away from that original system.
They love to highlight the Viking. They like to highlight the Viking because it seems to be such a chaotic period also.
I think in the original system, you had the breeder and the king. One time he was making the children, and the king was the head of the offering system. So he gave out the Ra. The Ra. Actually, in the beginning, we referred as Ra as the king, but in my understanding from today, Ra, we say Ra is in the sperm. But what is actually Ra?
The moon.
It's the life energy by itself, I think. It's like in the word prana.
Prana, yeah.
Yeah. And we have pranayama. That's this kind of breathing technique what the yogis are doing. So you take in the air. It's in the air. Energy is everywhere. It's in the air. Love is in the air. It's a famous song.
Go ahead.
Yeah. And, actually, his name in Finnish is Seppo Ilmarinen. Ilma is the air. And his sister, Maya, is Maya Ilmatar. So also they have this association of the air in. And
sky gods.
Yeah, and Lemminkainen is, before he was making a child, he was sitting there in his in Valhalla and breathing in the air, breathing in the spirits that came back to Valhalla, and then went into in his sperm and went out again to the world. Yeah. But in my understanding, Ra is the most important sound in the sound system, because it actually means it's the life energy by itself. And it's not only in the sperma. There you can hear it, sperma, R. But it's also in the mahala. But you don't hear it by the sound. But the sound R is E and R. And E is the mahala system.
Yeah, the A is Eng.
Yeah,
England.
Enrique. It's the mahala system. It's E and R. So Ra and Maya were both head of the male and female offering system, and they were giving out the air to the rabbis.
And the idea of Ra connected to the moon, connected to this life essence, that's always the story, is that the shadow side of things, the moon side of things, is always where that potential for creation is, that potential for life. And they, like in some cultures, they refer to the void of like pregnant potentiality. So it's always that darker side, that moon side, that's connected to what makes this all possible. So it just flows from one tradition to the next to connect these things.
It seems to be so.
The problem is what we have today in our world. Science has been banning life energy out of their understanding. Before, it was the ether, ether. And there was one guy called Willem Reich. He has been discovering life energy again, organ energy. Mm-hmm. And in the Indian context is prana. In the Chinese context is chi. So they all knew about life energy, and still know until today. All these techniques from yoga and Tai Chi, and these are techniques to gather life energy in yourself, right? And but what we've been doing today is we've been banning this concept of life energy completely. It started with Albert Einstein, I think. They dropped this idea of life energy itself.
Oh.
And that's why we are living in a materialistic universe.
Yeah, even more so.
Where everything is coincidence.
Yeah, particles collapsing and random stuff occur. It's like that.
Yeah. When you take out the life energy, then you end up in this bullshit situation what we are today.
But can you tell me a little bit, when we talk about the subject with life energy and this Ra, you talk about how you told Eeyore, or Jim told Eeyore, that you had starting to make the ring, like you said. What does this, did you talk about this and how it affects when you start to drink from yourself. It seems to be very important.
Yeah, I can only tell for myself.
Yes.
It's a bit of a... I had a sexual disease before I started to... I don't want to get too much into that now because it's not so nice. But I had a sexual disease in that time and I started to make my ring. And it was very painful. I can't even... I don't even have the right words in English for it. When I started to make my ring, this just disappeared in between 6 weeks. It just went away and it didn't come back since that time.
Wow.
So I started to realize for myself, when you're a young man, that you wank and you fuck around and the stuff gets more and more. You don't realize that you're actually losing energy when you're always wank it away. After a while, you start to feel, wait a second, you feel a bit low energy after. So I stopped wanking for a couple of years because I had this idea, better do it together with a woman. It's more fun and you get maybe a little bit something of energy back. And then when I started to do it, I realized after a few weeks that when I drink my sperm, I don't lose my energy anymore. It's a totally different feeling afterwards. It's more, you are in a relaxed state, you don't feel exhausted. That's when I realized it. And then slowly, I started to see that it's doing something on a deeper level. Things start to happen by themselves, by itself.
Yeah,
You're repairing, raw pairing.
Yeah. And I feel like under a certain, how to say, protection, guidance. And then after a few years, many things started to come up in my life, which I never actually thought that I would ever do. For example, I've been working as an artist in the party scene, blacklight. I decorated festivals and clubs with a certain technique. But that I have an artistic talent in me that came out in one night. Bam! It was there.
Wow.
I didn't learn it. I just discovered it in myself, and it became bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, And I think that's what this drinking of sperm and mahala is all about. It brings you just to yourself. It makes you it brings that out inside of you, what is actually inside, what is hidden inside.
Potential.
But hey, let's go back a little bit. We talk about the tour system and tour friends. They were exchanging like talents also, right?
Yeah.
At the same time, because they were teaching each other. Go ahead, Ananto. I just wanted to...
Yeah, that's the other part of the offering system, which I don't know much about because I'm more into women. And so I had my little encounters with men. I liked it also. But I don't know much about exchanging with men. I only did it once or twice with somebody. But I can say, from my own experience, I would recommend it to every man to drink your own sperm, because it brings you exactly to that what you are. It takes a while. It takes maybe a few years, but then suddenly you start to realize. Then it draws in certain people into your life. The things that your talents come out in a very easy way. It just brings you to yourself.
Do you think that the offering system is the reason why people had a longer lifespan in ancient times? Like even in biblical stuff, they talk about Noah living for 500 plus years, or and his sons living for hundreds of years. Do you think that's because of the offering system, that they were rehabilitating their energy in themselves and able to live longer and not deteriorate?
That's true herd immunity, right?
I'm sure about this. I mean, what we are talking about? We're talking about the immune system. Immune.
Immune.
And E is not only the prick, also is the pussy, is the vagina. It's also the female E, it's inside. Yeah.
Holy crap.
And male E is the penis. And yeah, we are in the biggest crisis ever, the so-called corona virus, very dangerous. Now the new Omicron mutation is on the way, you know. Everybody has to be afraid to die. I mean, I think these guys from the back, they are laughing their ass off because they just did not throw their energy away, their life energy, their sperm away, and the mahala. So, and the immune system was not only personal, individual, I think it was a collective thing. I can imagine that people were just healthy. They didn't get any disease. They started to get the diseases when they were breaking this sperm and mahala story. And what now it gets heavy. I'm very cautious now from what I want to say. The way they did it, they banned masturbation. That's the first thing. That was what the religions did to the people. They were banning masturbation on the female side and on the male side. And now you have I'm trying to find the word. How you say that when you cut the shame,
circumcision.
But from the female side, when they have many rituals where they cut off the clitoris or the shame lips. Very like painful. That. They do that to women in the very young age, and it is still been done in many countries.
Yeah. Would you say that? Did you say shame lips, or is that
shame lips? That's what we say in Germany.
That's a German word. Okay.
Schamlippen, shame lips. No, it's probably a different word.
Oh, okay. But again, we're talking about saga and sound resonance. So,
but what I want to
be ashamed of your
shame lips
of yourself.
It's exactly what it is.
Schamlippen, because you feel ashamed there, you know.
Okay.
And, but the clitoris and but also the male circumcision. I know the Americans all are circumcised. The Jews are circumcised. The Muslims are circumcised. I think it is a crime.
Of course.
Me too.
I think
that's why my wife and I did not do it to our son.
And it should be forbidden totally, because what you're actually doing, you're taking the most sensitive part of your body away. It's not Eichel. What is the word in English for? It's not the head of the prick. The rose. That's not the most. It's the skin around. That is the sensitive part of it. You destroy sensitivity in people, and there are. I've been figuring out there must be around 500 million women who have been destroyed their clitoris and their female organ down there, and there must be around 2 billion men on the planet who have no foreskin anymore. And this is all out of religion. The reason is for the religion, for the God, you know? Destroying the sexuality of men. They are destroying the heart, because in the saga, the heart is considered to be the brick, the head of the brick, or the clitoris. That's the physical heart. Of course, we feel something. There is an emotional heart that we feel in our well-being.
Heart chakra, yeah.
And then there is a spiritual heart even. But they are all connected to each other. And they've been destroying the physical heart. Heavy.
And it affects the rest, of course, also in many ways.
It affects the rest.
Mm.
And there are still two. I mean, most of the guys. It's been done in an age where you even can't speak. Sometimes straight after the birth, so you have no right to decide. Your right to decide about the totality of your body has been taken away from you in the first couple of days.
Right.
Yeah? That's a crime. I think it's a fucking crime.
Mm.
And we accept it.
Yeah. And we still continue doing that with our children. It should be stopped immediately.
Ain't this interesting? The people who does this, or the cultures, they are also the guys that are waging most wars also, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
they're frustrated.
If the sensibility disappears, or you become so worn out, or it doesn't, you don't. What Ananto is saying, it's the most sensible. But maybe it also makes you a little bit more, in your head less sensitive. Also,
as above, so below.
Yeah, a little bit like that.
It's a thing. I find it heavy to talk about it. Actually,
yeah, it is.
Yeah,
it's an important.
I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings.
No,
don't worry about that around here.
When a woman tells me, I know a couple of women who tell me they only go for circumcised men. Why? Yeah, they can fuck longer.
Yeah,
because you don't get so quick the orgasm. They go only for circumcised men, right?
Maybe I'm thinking about this. This Moses story.
Moshi.
Maybe it started around there. I don't know, but with this circumcision and wanted to pleasure the females and all of this. I mean, it's very interesting if we try to look back at it.
In my research, the Jews must have been the first people who started the circumcision story.
I think. Yeah,
with
Moses. I heard that they did that in order to, they're putting rings in their penis to Prince Albert, because they were something about wrestling with the Romans. The Romans didn't do that, and so the Jews were doing that so they wouldn't get erections or something like that from wrestling with the Romans in these in the arenas and stuff.
Weird.
Yeah, there's a whole thing to it. I don't know exactly everything, so I might be getting some stuff out. So people should go look into that a little further if they want better knowledge on that.
I'm just what popped up in my head when you're telling, if you have this kind of arena and they are having an offering system within the Roman, and then people show up and they can't come. It's a mockery also. But I don't know. It's just we're getting quite on the too early mark in 20 minutes. But I wanted to ask you a little bit about the situation today, Ananto, because I know that you are quite in the loop, as I figure, with a lot of the happening around in Finland with the temple and what has been going on. Can't you tell us a little bit on the
I've been very
what's going
curious.
on?
Yes, there is. A couple of years ago, we've been deciding that something must happen. So we started this excavation project again about 3 or 4 years ago. And we had different ideas how to continue. And there was a group from about 8 or 10 people. We had a house in Finland close to the Gumbu Strand, to the temple. And we had this idea to clean up the whole outside of the temple in order to be able to see what this thing must have looked like 1,000 years ago. And we also wanted to show that this stone called sundial rock is standing by itself. So we took a lot of material from under the stone away, and then people started to freak out. They got afraid that the stone will fall over. It was a big discussion until today in our group. It was decided not to take the material from under the stone more away. Now, also the owners of the place is Juha Javainen and Petri Räisänen. They said also very clear, stop that. Don't go ahead with this. Now, then one guy had the idea, which is a very good idea, I think, to make an geological, scientific research on the whole area. So we had measurements done on the hill on Kypelivuori with radar scans into the ground, and the guy who made it, he is pretty sure that there is something. There might be some hollow space somewhere. But in order to do this thing totally and right, we need some other things. We need drones. We need topographic scan of the whole place. We need laser drones.
LiDAR, yeah.
Maybe thermo drones. And then we need to make a measurement of the tunnel, which is already there, and then connect all this data together in a 3D model in the computer. And then you might be able to pinpoint out exactly the spot where we suspect the open space inside of the mountain. Yeah. Otherwise, at the moment, we're just sitting in the dark, and is it there? Or is it there? Is it there? Is it here? We don't know. But when we get all the data together from different methods, then we should be able to see where exactly the spot is, where to drill. Let's put it like that. And also we also decided not anymore to use dynamite. That has been the story from the 80s. Just blow it up. Maybe there is some smarter technique today available that takes maybe a little bit more time. And all this should have been done already 2019 and 2020. But in 2020 and 2021, but because of Corona restrictions everywhere, it's very hard to get into Finland, It was just been stopped, everything. Now this is the plan for the next year, that we make this archaeological prospection in a scientific way. And we are looking at the moment for the right people, the right experts, geologists, maybe archaeologists who actually can help us to get this thing done. At the moment, one guy of our group, it's Markus, he is in Finland. He stays over the winter and he's trying to prepare the story for next spring, starting in April or May. And then I think we're going to take some action. If it's still possible to travel, but that's what they are trying to totally stop at the moment, traveling. It's not anymore possible just to jump into the next plane and travel. Especially for people like me, I'm not vaxxed and I don't take this thing. It's a fucking problem. Yeah.
Finland's been pretty strict about things, haven't they?
At the moment in Berlin, in Germany, you have to be vaxxed or genesen, means 3G they call it. You have to be vaxxed, or you have had corona and you can prove it, or you have to be tested everywhere. In every job, you have to make every day a test. Jesus. When you go to a bus, to an underground station, to the train, you can only travel tested or vaxxed. It's unbelievable. And you pay, you don't have to pay for the test, no. But you have to be tested in order to. The only place where you still can go, not tested and not vaxxed, is the supermarket.
That's even surprising.
Yeah, because people need some food. But I wonder when they start this shit, it's starting to get really spooky here in Germany.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I don't know how it is in your country at the moment. But
we're looking at you guys and we're going,
But I think it doesn't matter if it's some kind of virus or whatever. I mean, it could have been a terror, some kind of, whatever.
It's an event.
It's just scary to see how. I'm just thinking about how the people in Germany during World War II, with the Jews had to wear the patch. Yeah, and now the unvaxxed are sort of becoming in the same situation. Maybe we are going to be needed a patch if we don't vaccinate.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's the same.
And a lot of us throw that around in the States, and we get a lot of hate and a lot of anger from a lot of people who don't feel like this is paralleled to that time period. But you're coming right from Germany, and you're agreeing with that statement about how freakishly close this is.
I watched the new community guidelines. I read everything that YouTube updated now here. And I feel a little bit careful to even mention, because then you're going to have we need to bust it out like in a children's movie, because if you get instantly taken down, and it was pages of the pages with specific topics. If you claim that the coronavirus can be wiped out by fireworks, you get shut down for stuff in specific. I was blown away.
On our social media, if I mention what herd immunity used to say in the Webster dictionary, I get a COVID notification.
Yeah, I don't want the fucking.
Didn't mention COVID. Didn't mention anything about it.
Can you please beep it out so we don't get that fucking shit here?
I once posted something completely arbitrary about the elites that run the world. It's totally erroneous, and got a COVID notification. A fact check.
We need to bust them out, because we ain't having that shit, right?
Well,
anyway.
I mean, I think the topics that we talk about, I think the algorithm wouldn't catch on to this little snippet for quite a while. If we did Bock Saga and the coronavirus, that might trigger.
The moment you say coronavirus, you get
they need to fill in don't claiming that drinking sperm takes away, we're
going to piss off a whole other group of people. Don't worry.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Oh man, that's what I'm best at. Anyway,
well, especially what's interesting about that part of the topic itself is that we in the truther community across the globe are aligned against these supposed elites that do sexual things with children and things like that. So people that don't educate themselves and don't listen to the finer points of what we're talking about and what we're learning are just going to run with it in the bad direction. But we have to remember that people do that with every topic.
Yes.
Interesting too. We're talking about the hijack and the replacement of nature with synthetic versions, the replacement of drinking the semen with the drinking of alcohol, and in Catholic Church, the drinking of the blood of Jesus and the blood drinkers and they talk about that with the lizard people and their blood drinkers and who are those people really is the Catholic Church to me is seems to be more and more what it comes to be is they're the ones that shut down all these pagan beliefs, and they're the ones trying to eradicate all this history about the pagans and their systems and replacing it with these different synthetic versions of what did go on, but they're still carrying on the same things, but in these fake pseudo ways.
It has to look real. It has to be adjacent to what was real. But it's something in us innately doesn't buy it if it's not close to the truth.
It's there symbolically. I mean, they changed the heart from down there up here, and
has to keep the same.
What's pumping? It's blood. It becomes the heart. This kind of blood theme that they are rolling out, even trying to blame the heathens for being this kind of blood sacrificing savages.
Like I said, all the Viking shows on TV, they're everywhere, and they're all. Sure that some of the Viking tribes are the protagonists of the television shows, but they're all just violent warmongering. That's what they thrive on. It's what they pride themselves on. that seems like a psyop right off the bat.
Yes, it is. It is 100%. Well, Ananto, do you have anything more you want to contribute?
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us, man.
Flying away here.
I have much more. I mean, we've been really discussing some hot topics here.
We love that.
We'd love to have you back too.
But I think also what I wanted to say is what has happened. Okay, I didn't want to go into these blood stories. I know they are there, these rituals.
Yes.
I became aware of. I was shocked when I realized that this is part of the truth, hidden in plain sight.
Yes.
And I wonder how this kind of perversion came into existence, into being. Okay, that's a long research into certain cultural stuff from certain people, from certain communities in the past. But I think the sperm story and Mahala story was replaced with blood at a certain point. You know?
That makes sense.
That's what I'm saying with the heart.
And the thing with the heart, they destroyed the heart, the physical heart.
Yes.
That's how it starts. And they've been suppressing sexuality into the unconscious. They told people sexuality down there, bad, evil. Heart up here, good, God. You know? That's how the devil came into existence. Because when you suppress sexuality in this way, it starts to flip over into something violent, into something. Wilhelm Reich, I can only say Wilhelm Reich he was the one who has been showing that. He has been researching that for his whole life. There is one book from him. It's either God and Devil. And he shows how when life energy itself, the air,
getting blocked,
the organ, is being fucked up inside, then how violence appears and all this other negative
frustration.
The evil is being created by suppressing the life energy itself. That's the godly side, let's say it, of it. I don't
Absolutely.
like God, but it's life energy itself seems to be the God.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, to be honest.
And by replacing it, subconsciously we don't feel a lack. We feel like all these symbols are represented, and not that we're consciously aware of it all the time, but they replace these things with, like I said, adjacent to the truth, so that nothing is lacking from the system necessarily. It's just the intention that changes.
Well, yeah, think of the blood too. The blood is what carries your cells and your life force, right? And so maybe they're replacing the drinking ceremony with the drinking of the blood, because the blood is what's going through your system, and I guess maybe the adjacent is like they think that because it's still carrying those things, so if you drink it, then you're imbued with that. But it's totally a different substance or process that is happening.
If we think about the pump instead of the heart, and we think about the blood, and are leaning on the materialistic world, where if we consider the old way of that being your prick being the heart, the head of the prick, it's physical, it's materialistic, but it's literally a metaphor for the spirit side of things. Whereas the pump and the blood is literally materialistic reality, and it's not connected in the saga to the spirit. You know what I mean? So there's your adjacency, if that's a word.
I mean, you can take out the heart and put a plastic pump in. It works as well. Yeah, but you can't. When you cut off the head of the brick or the clitoris, no more good feelings. Yeah, you cannot. You can literally each bones and liver and heart and whatever they can replace by now, but they can't replace the sensuality of the sexual organs.
But they're going to try. Possible. I mean, this is another conversation altogether, and we don't have time for it today. But just seeing video footage of new, and of course they're framing it in a positive way. These amazing birthing pods that eventually will be able to take mothers out of the equation. And I mean, again, that's just an example.
Some new World's Fairs
we're talking about. Yeah, new World's Fairs, right? Yeah. And they'll be on Zoom though. Much easier to fake the buildings. But man, we should wrap up though. I do have to get going. I'm sure
some final comments on that. But yeah, awesome to have you here today.
So great to have you.
Yeah, interesting conversation with you guys.
Yeah. Hey, we are super
honest. Always can go deeper, no problem.
We love that shit.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Is there anywhere, so if people have questions and want to reach out to you, is there a way, or would you like people to do that? Is there a way to reach you?
Well, I have my in Germany, I have my Telegram channel.
Mm-hmm.
And I also have a channel on YouTube. It's called Welcome to Hell.
Yeah, you just launched that.
I have only 5 videos put on this channel so far. But these videos are, for me, very important because they are all made between 1987 and 1990.
Okay.
From the early days. And they sometimes in a bad quality, but we digitalized them. So we rescued them.
Yeah.
Otherwise they would be gone forever from old tapes. And now it's there on YouTube, Welcome to Hell. And from there is also a connection to my Telegram channel, but that's in German. Yeah.
Fair enough. Well,
on the channel, I have been putting tons and tons from audio tapes from Eeyore in English and videotapes that I personally made in Goa and in Finland around the year 2000.
Excellent.
And I've been publishing that, nearly everything I have. Some things I don't want to publish. When Eeyore got his first attentat back in 1999, it was such a shock for me. And then I realized, okay, the first thing I did is I bought a camera. And I was trying to get as much video material as possible because I knew this is historic material at a certain point. And I asked Eeyore to make some video, especially on certain aspects of the saga. And first he was like, no, it has to come in your head. It has to be there. I said, Eeyore, yeah, of course, but we are living in the 20th century. People start to forget,
You got to turn people's heads first.
Yeah, he agreed, actually, at a certain point, yes, we're going to make these spots. I have only 3 videos. Now the interesting part is, it was made in 2002, I think, or was it 2000? I don't know. I had my camera for 3 years. In the 3rd year, I started to continue with this kind of video sequences with Eeyore, and I have been filming already twice. And then the thief came and steal my camera.
Oh. And with all the recordings?
Also, including the recordings from the last year.
Holy
fuck. It was just by chance, it was a lucky thing that he didn't see the other tapes from the year before, from the 2 years before. So I still have them. So I all published that on my channel. It's called Bock Saga, Die Geschichte der Menschheit. And you can find many things in English on it. Many things.
That's good.
We'll definitely we'll put your links in our show notes for sure.
Yeah.
And also I'm really saying that especially there is one thing, Eeyore has been invited by the Human University. It's a therapeutic community in Holland. For a couple of years, every year he was invited there to make his program in their big summer festival. And they recorded that. And I have the recordings that are 12 tapes from that time. in a pretty good sound quality. The best, where actually Eeyore speaks by himself.
That's good.
And also is a question and answer situation also. And I really recommend these 12 tapes. Especially the last 4, because in that tapes he goes into the females part of sexuality, into the names of the sexual organs from women, about the female offering system, in a very precise and deep way. When I realized that this is all on tape, I flipped. I said, fuck, it's all there. Because in the first years, Eeyore has been more focusing on the male side of the whole story. And actually in the 90s, during the 90s, he went into the female side of the saga much more. And that's all on the tapes.
And you have that on your YouTube, everything?
On the YouTube, no.
Nice.
I have it on
the Telegram?
On my Telegram channel.
Okay,
great.
And you have to look through, you have to scroll down and then find it somewhere.
I think you can start
in German, though? Is it in German or is it in English?
In English.
Okay.
Eeyore speaking in English.
Okay.
That's excellent. Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
And for me, these are the most important tapes which are still there until today.
Nice.
Eeyore Bock at Human University from part 1 till 12.
Excellent.
We put that below. We need to
we'll put that in the show notes.
I had another announcement though.
Oh yeah, go ahead, Yogi.
No, I just saw this just before we started here. There's a guy who has this drone footage of Lemminkainen from above now. So I'm gonna put that down also, so you can have a nice view.
Well. I haven't put it on the channel yet.
No. But I will link it to you guys.
This is really some very nice. Somebody made, I don't know who, not somebody from our group, but he made this drone flight over Etterstupa, absolutely amazing. And the last thing, what I wanted to say, we found behind Etterstupa, we found an interesting anomaly. Let's put it like that. And there is one hole in the ground filled with stones and mud. But this hole it's very round, but it seems to be natural. And there are many places in Finland where you find these kinds of holes. They even call them devil holes. I don't know the word in
it's about right. Yeah, I've heard it too.
Language. It's a phenomenon which we have hundreds of places in Finland and Karelia where you have this strange round holes in the granite, and they are filled with mud or stones. And at the moment we are trying to get the mud and the stones out. It's a bit of a trip, and that's all Marcus is doing at the moment in Finland. He lives there, and he's doing a hell of a job. Fucking hell, really. And I'm trying to put all the photos together in the next days, what we have so far, and put it onto my channel as well. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, Nando, it was great to meet you, and we would love to have you back to do another 2 hours.
Yeah,
for sure. We could pick your brain some more for sure.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I mean, it's the first time you're doing something like this.
Well, you killed it, man. You taught us a lot. We learned a lot today.
No, I realized when I forgot sometimes that this has been recorded.
That's good.
Yeah. And I talk as I usually talk with friends, and, oh no, you have to be careful what you're saying.
All right.
Well, we appreciate it, Ananto. Thank you.
Hey, it was fun with you.
Yes, thank you.
All right, everybody. Well, you guys got anything left?
Well, pretty much, but we need to.
There's a lot of.
Yeah, we'll come
we
back
need
soon.
to tie ourselves,
Yes. All right, everybody.
For me, it is the longer. I'm now since 32 years in this story somehow, and for the last, let's say, for about 10 years, there was hardly anybody I could talk about with the saga too. And I didn't want to tell it to the people anymore because they were all running away. They had not the patience to really look into the thing. So I gave it all up. And then when I started my channel, I started to had many talks with Michelle and Jimmy in that time and other people. And I started to get into the saga again. And then I started to realize, fucking hell, this thing is much, much bigger than I thought up to that point. And this is unfolding in front of my eyes, in front of all our eyes. And the more people who are actually joining in and giving their piece of information, then it started to make much more sense to me than ever before. I personally learned about the saga more in the last 1.5 or 2 years than in the last 20, 30 years before.
Wow. Is that, I'm just thinking to get R or thinking together.
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 Because it's our saga. It's all of our saga.
Together. R.
Exactly. That's a beautiful way to end this.
All right, listeners, viewers, thank you so much for joining us on the 3rd episode of Roots of Creation. And we'll see you next time.